Meet John. He is 52 years old, and last Tuesday his net worth quietly crossed $750,000. No party, no champagne, just a plain number on a screen that finally read 750. By every visible measure, John is doing fine, better than roughly 90% of American households. But here is what nobody told John about this exact moment in his financial life. $750,000 is not a finish line. It is the most dangerous number he has ever held. Because for the first time, the money can now lose more in a week than John earns in a month. At this level, the market moves more of his money in a day than he saves in a year. And most people who reach 750 do one of three things that quietly cost them their first million. They loosen up, they chase yield, or they hand it all to a smiling salesman. John is about to make at least one of those mistakes, and he has no idea it is coming. So before you celebrate your own 750 or your 500K, watch closely what happens next. Because the hidden math of this number is not what your parents or the internet ever told you. Let's start with why $750,000 feels so different from every number before it. At $10,000, a bad decision costs you lunch money. The market barely registers. At $100,000, a 10% drop is $10,000. Painful but recoverable. At $750,000, that same 10% drop is $75,000. Gone in weeks. For most workers, $75,000 is more than an entire year of take-home pay. You can no longer outsave your mistakes. The portfolio is bigger than your paycheck can fix. That is the quiet shift almost no one warns you about at this exact milestone. Your income built the first 750, but your behavior decides whether it becomes $1 million or half. Charlie Munger famously said, "The first 100,000 is the hardest part to accumulate." He was right, but he never said the money gets any safer once it grows larger. In fact, the bigger the number, the bigger the single mistake it can absorb before you notice. A $5,000 error at $20,000 net worth stings for about a month. The same percentage error at 750 can quietly erase 4 or 5 years of saving. So the stakes at this level are not about getting rich. They are about not getting careless. Here's what the data shows about the people who reach this number and then lose it. Meet 3 more people who all crossed $750,000 in the same year, 2025. All 3 earn solid but ordinary incomes. None of them is a founder or a trust fund heir. The first is Carla. She is 32, a software analyst earning $94,000 a year. Carla hit 750 early by saving aggressively and letting index funds compound for 11 straight years. When her income rose over the years, Carla's spending stayed almost perfectly, stubbornly flat. That single habit is why she reached 750 a full decade before most of her co-workers. The second is Diana. She is 34, a project manager who also reached 750,000. But Diana's net worth is tangled, half in home equity and half in accounts she rarely opens. The third is Maya. She is 28, a nurse who inherited part of her number and saved the rest. Maya keeps most of her 750 in a high-yield savings account, earning 4%, feeling safe. 3 people, same headline number, $750,000 each on paper today. They did the hard part already. They reached a number most households never see in a lifetime. But 5 years from now, their numbers will not look anything alike, and the gap will shock you. Let's keep this fair and run the exact same market the same years on all 3 of them. Carla keeps her 750 invested about 90% in a total market index fund. She adds $1,200 every month automatically on the day her paycheck lands. At a 7% average return, Carla's money roughly doubles every 10 years, untouched. Even if Carla never saved another dollar, her 750 becomes $1 million in about 4 years. That is the quiet power of crossing this line. Compounding now outruns your own contributions. Carla checks her brokerage app once a month on the first Tuesday, and then she closes it. She does not react to headlines, and she has never panic sold during a single market downturn. Diana's story is different. Her 750 is scattered across 5 separate accounts. An old 401k, a forgotten Roth, some company stock, home equity, and a bloated checking account. Diana has never once added up what she actually pays in fees across all of those accounts. Buried in her statements is a 1.2% advisory fee she agreed to years ago. On $750,000, that fee quietly costs her $9,000 a year. Over the next decade, that single overlooked percentage will cost Diana more than $100,000. Diana is not lazy or foolish. She is simply busy, and the fees hide quietly in plain sight. The advisor she pays has never once beaten a simple index fund, not after those fees. Maya took the path that feels safest of all, and it is quietly the most expensive one. She parked $600,000 of her $750 in a savings account, paying 4%. 4% sounds wonderful until you remember inflation is eating 3% every year. Maya's real return is barely 1%, while Carla's index fund compounds near 7. Maya is not reckless. She is frightened. She watched her parents lose money back in 2008. So she confuses feeling safe with being safe, and inflation quietly picks her pocket each year. Over 20 years, the difference between 1% and 7% is not small at all. On $600,000, it is the gap between $700K and over $2 million. Same starting number, same 20 years, a difference of more than $1.5 million. None of them feels like they are making a mistake right now, and that is exactly the trap. Every dangerous decision at this level feels reasonable, comfortable, even responsible in the moment. That is why $750,000 destroys more quiet fortunes than any market crash. The lesson from Carla, Diana, and Maya is simple. The number is identical, but the habits are not. Two of them will quietly drift while one compounds, and none of them can feel it happening. The difference is never luck at this level. It is a handful of boring decisions repeated for years. So let's break down exactly what you should do the moment your net worth hits this number. Here's what nobody tells you about the moment you cross $750,000. The very first move is not to invest more. It is to freeze your lifestyle exactly where it is. The moment John saw 750, his brain whispered a quiet, dangerous sentence, "You have arrived." That whisper is how lifestyle creep begins. Not with a yacht, but with a slightly nicer everything. A bigger house payment, a newer car lease, a few more subscriptions that never get canceled. Each upgrade feels reasonable, and none of them feels like it will ever hurt your net worth. But raise your monthly spending by just $2,000 and you redirect $24,000 a year. $24,000 a year invested at 7% becomes over $300,000 in a decade. So the nicer lifestyle does not cost you $2,000 a month. It costs you a future $300K. John does not need to live like a monk. He needs to keep his spending flat for 3 more years. Let compounding, not your paycheck, do the next stretch of the climb toward 1 million. The people who lose their 750 almost never lose it to a crash. They spend it slowly. They upgrade their way back to broke, one perfectly reasonable purchase at a time. Freeze the lifestyle first. It is the cheapest, most powerful move you will ever make here. Carla proved it when her income rose, her spending stayed flat, and the gap became her fortune. That one flat habit is why she crossed the finish line a full decade ahead of everyone else. Here's what actually happens when you start chasing yield at $750,000. Once the number is big, ordinary returns start to feel boring, and boredom is expensive. 7% on 750 is $52,000 a year, but it does not feel exciting on a screen. So John starts getting the calls, the emails, the friend with a can't-miss opportunity. A salesman tells John that his money deserves better than a boring index fund. He pitches a private deal promising 18% guaranteed with almost no risk at all. Here is the rule that never breaks: guaranteed and 18% cannot exist in the same sentence. Every extra point of promised return hides an extra point of risk you simply cannot see yet. The people who blow up at this level rarely do it slowly. They do it chasing one big yield. John does not need 18%. He needs to not lose the 750 he already has. At this net worth, avoiding a single catastrophic loss matters more than any exciting gain. Warren Buffett's first rule is never lose money, and his second rule is never forget the first. The boring index fund John already owns has quietly beaten almost every exciting alternative. So when the pitch sounds too good, that is not opportunity knocking, that is risk in disguise. If the person selling cannot explain exactly where the return comes from, walk away immediately. Most people at $750,000 ignore the one number quietly draining them: fees. Remember Diana paying a 1.2% advisory fee she barely remembers agreeing to. On 750, that is $9,000 a year, whether the market goes up or down. Her advisor gets paid the same $9,000 in a crash as he does in a boom. Over 20 years, that 1.2% fee quietly eats around $300,000. That is not a typo. A single overlooked percentage cost Diana $333,000. Fees are the termites of wealth, invisible, slow, and utterly devastating over long periods. The fix takes Diana one afternoon. She reads every statement and writes down every fee. She learns her expense ratios, her advisory fee, and the hidden costs buried in old funds. Then she moves the money into low-cost index funds, charging around 0.04%. That switch alone saves Diana roughly $8,500 every single year. Run the numbers on your own accounts. Most people have no idea what they are actually paying. At $750,000, a 1% fee is not small. It is a second mortgage. Ask any advisor one blunt question: what is my total all-in cost in dollars per year? If he cannot answer that in plain dollars, that silence is itself your answer to leave. A fair fee for real planning can be worth it, but you must know exactly what you pay. On a big number, an unmanaged 1% is the single most expensive habit you own. Here's the risk that hides in plain sight once your number gets this large, timing itself. It is called sequence of returns risk, and it is the threat most calculators completely ignore. Two people can earn the same average return over 20 years and end up worlds apart. The difference is the order of the returns, especially if you are pulling money out. Imagine two retirees, both with $1 million, both withdrawing $50,000 a year. Both average 5% over 20 years. The only difference is when the bad years hit. The one who hits a crash early can end up $665,000 poorer. Same average return, same withdrawals, a $2/3 million gap from timing alone. When you withdraw during a downturn, you lock in losses the next rebound cannot fully undo. That is why the years right around retirement are the most fragile in your entire plan. If you are near this number and near retirement, do not stay fully aggressive by default. Building a cash cushion of 1 to 2 years of expenses is not weakness, it is armor. It lets you avoid selling stocks at the worst possible moment during a market crash. A 20% drop on a $1.2 million portfolio is $240,000 gone. The goal now is not maximum return, it is surviving the sequence long enough to win. Here's what nobody tells you about taxes the moment your accounts get this large. At $750,000, where your money lives matters as much as how it grows. Money in a taxable account, a Roth, and a traditional 401k are simply not the same dollars. A dollar in a Roth is worth more than a traditional dollar because it is already taxed. Most people never map their asset location, so they pay thousands more in taxes than they must. Put your fastest growing investments inside your Roth, where the growth is never taxed again. Keep your bonds and slower assets inside tax-deferred accounts, where the bite is smaller. This single reshuffle, called asset location, can add years of spending to your retirement. Also learn tax loss harvesting, turning a paper loss into a real reduction on your tax bill. When the market dips, you can sell a losing fund, buy a similar one, and bank the loss. That harvested loss can offset gains and even a few $1,000s of ordinary income yearly. None of this is exciting, and all of it quietly keeps more of your $750 in your pocket. At this level, the tax code is either your silent partner or your silent landlord. You choose. You do not need to become an accountant, you just need to stop leaving free money behind. One conversation with a fee-only tax planner can pay for itself many times over here. The wealthy obsess over what they keep, not just over what their investments happen to earn. Most people at this level get their cash position exactly backwards, in both directions. Remember Maya, holding $600,000 in a savings account, feeling responsible. She has far too much in cash, letting inflation quietly shrink at 3% every year. Meanwhile, someone like John may hold too little cash, forced to sell stocks in an emergency. The right cash cushion is usually 3 to 6 months of expenses, not $600,000. Enough to sleep at night and survive a job loss, but not so much that inflation feasts on it. Maya's fix is to keep about $40,000 in cash and invest the rest into a diversified portfolio. Overnight, her money goes from losing to inflation to actually compounding above it. Cash is a tool for emergencies, not a strategy for growth, and confusing the two is expensive. Too little cash forces bad sales, too much cash guarantees a slow, invisible loss to inflation. The number you want is boring and specific, a few months of expenses, then put the rest to work. The right answer is not zero cash and not a fortune in cash. It is a deliberate, specific number. Here's the psychology that quietly sabotages almost every seven-figure journey near this point. When the number gets big, your brain starts treating it as an identity, not an account balance. John begins checking the portfolio 3 times a day, writing every green and red candle. On a big number, a normal 2% day swings $15,000 in or out. Watching $15,000 move around before lunch is a fast path to panic selling. The investors who win at this level are almost boringly calm, they check rarely and react less. Carla looks at her accounts once a month, and Diana learned to stop checking during downturns. The market pays the patient and taxes the anxious, and your own emotions are the biggest fee. Another trap is comparison. Once you have $750, you notice everyone who has more. There is always a friend with a bigger house, a hotter stock, a flashier win to envy. Comparison at this level pushes people into risks they never needed to take at all. Your $750 does not care about your neighbor's boat or your cousin's crypto coin. The only race that matters is your money against your future needs. Nothing else at all. Name the emotion when it shows up: greed, fear, envy, and then do absolutely nothing. Doing nothing on purpose is the most underrated skill in all of investing. Your brain evolved to react to danger, but markets punish exactly that ancient reflex. The urge to do something during a crash is the single most expensive feeling in finance. Train yourself to treat that urge as a signal to wait, not a signal to act. Run the numbers on the single most boring move, and it quietly beats all the exciting ones. Automation? Carla never decides whether to invest. $1,200 leaves automatically each month. She removed her own emotions from the decision, so fear and greed never get a vote. Set your contributions to fire on payday, before you can see the money or feel tempted. Automate your investing, your bill paying, and even your rebalancing once a year. The goal is a system that keeps working on your worst, most distracted, most emotional days. John sets his accounts to auto-invest, then deliberately makes the process slightly annoying to stop. He removes the trading app from his phone's home screen, adding friction to every bad impulse. The best portfolio is not the cleverest one, it is the one you will actually leave alone. At $750,000, your job is no longer to be brilliant, just consistent. Discipline automated will carry you from $750,000 to $1 million while you live your life. The exciting investors post screenshots, the wealthy ones set it up once and look away. Here's the move almost nobody makes at $750,000, and it costs about one afternoon of effort. Once you have real money, you need to protect it from lawsuits, accidents, and paperwork gaps. John has no will, no updated beneficiaries, and no plan if something happens to him tomorrow. If John died today, his $750,000 could sit frozen in probate for a year. A basic will and updated beneficiary forms can move that money to his family in weeks, not years. An umbrella insurance policy, often $1 million of coverage, costs around $200 a year. That $200 protects the entire $750,000 from a single bad car accident lawsuit. Most people insure a $30,000 car but leave a $700,000 net worth exposed. Check your beneficiaries today. Most people have an X, a parent, or a blank on old accounts. Protecting the downside is not pessimism. It is what lets you invest the upside with confidence. The wealthy do not just grow money, they build a moat around the money they already have. One will, one umbrella policy, one afternoon, to defend a number that took you years to build. Now here's the part almost no financial channel will tell you about this exact number. The biggest threat to your $750,000 is not the market, it is you. Every mistake we covered, chasing yield, lifestyle creep, panic selling, comes from inside your own head. The market is not trying to take your money. Your own impatience is far more dangerous. And here is the twist that feels wrong until you sit with it for a quiet moment. The moment you cross $750,000, your job quietly changes from earner to guardian. For years, your task was to add money, to hustle, to save, to push the number higher. But now the number is big enough that your best move is often to do almost nothing. Here's the quotable line. At $750,000, the market moves more in a day than you save in a year. Which means you can no longer save your way out of a mistake, you can only avoid making one. The person who does nothing calmly for 5 years usually beats the one who tinkers. Carla did almost nothing, and her $750,000 is quietly on its way to $2 million. Diana fixed her fees once, then did nothing, and saved herself $350,000. Maya made one change, invested her cash, then did nothing, and beat inflation for the first time. None of them got rich by being brilliant, they got rich by refusing to be careless. That is the great inversion of wealth. Early on action builds it, later restraint protects it. The hardest skill at $750,000 is learning to sit still on purpose. Your money no longer needs your excitement, it needs your patience and your absence. The market rewards the guardian and punishes the gambler, even when they hold the same number. So the next time your $750,000 tempts you to do something clever, just remember John. The clever move at this level is almost always to make no move at all. Do less on purpose and let the number you already earned quietly finish the job. Think of a tree you planted years ago. Digging it up to check the roots only kills it. Your portfolio is that tree, and constant checking is you disturbing the roots out of anxiety. The wealthiest investors are not the busiest. They are often the ones who forgot their password. Doing nothing feels lazy, but here deliberate patience is the highest paid work you can do. Every mistake at this level is loud, exciting, and urgent. Every right move is quiet and boring. The gambler chases the thrill, the guardian collects the compounding, and time crowns the guardian. You already did the hard part, you reached the number, now do not talk yourself out of it. Protect it, automate it, and then calmly get out of your own way. The irony is beautiful. The less you touch it now, the more it quietly becomes. John finally understood. His job was never to beat the market, only to outlast his own worst impulses. That is the whole game at $750,000. Guard the number and let time do the rest. So let's bring this back to you, wherever your own number happens to sit right now. Whether you are at $50,000 or already past $750,000, the lesson stays the same. The habits that get you to the number are not the same habits that keep it. Getting there rewards hustle. Keeping it rewards restraint, and almost nobody teaches the second part. When you finally cross $750,000, do not celebrate by spending. Celebrate by protecting, freeze your lifestyle, cut your fees, automate, and cover the downside. Then step back and let compounding carry you the rest of the way to 1 million. Remember, at this level, the market moves more in a day than you can save in a year. So your calm is now worth more than your effort. Guard it like the asset it truly is. If this showed you something you did not know was happening with your money, you know what helps. Subscribe to Desmond Wealth and hit the bell so the next number does not catch you unprepared. We break down the hidden math behind the financial decisions you face every single day. Do the math, then make the decision that matches your reality, not someone else's sales pitch. Because the number you protect will always outlast the number you chase.